Well, DG, here we are. My first contestant of the year. The first storm just came by, and this guy did not want to do his due diligence, aka maintenance. Or, hell, even go check his boat. So yeah, she kind of washed ashore. She's doing great. For falling apart, that is.
That's kind of the cost of playing the game. If you're going to own a boat, it does have a cost and a toll, and you're going to have to keep up with that vessel to keep it in tip-top shape, and today we're going to explore a little bit about that. The cost of playing the game, and question is whether you even should play in the game. Welcome back, crew, to this week's episode of Boneheaded Boaters of the Week. Now, when I say should you play in the game, there are a ton of people who go out there and buy boats, and if they're lucky, get out on that boat 5 to 10 times a year. And they're typically the people we see doing silly things because they're not out there enough to even have the proper equipment half the time. They don't think about it because all they think about is when they're going to go out and go on the boat. How fast can I get it launched? Let's get the family out there and then let's call it a day and get it done. Now, if you find yourself in this camp, where you maybe only make it out on the water 5 or 10 times a year, you don't even have the proper tow vehicle to tow your vessel, but you don't worry about it because you only tow it 5 times a year, so it doesn't make any sense for you to go out there and drop a ton of coin on a brand new truck when your little Honda's worked fine for years and will always work fine in your mind until it no longer does. So my question to you is, if you're only using your vessel a handful of times a year, is it really worth it to keep that vessel? There's tons of other options out there. For example, if you're only going out 5 times a year, why not just rent a boat those 5 times a year and eliminate all the headaches like we see here? I mean, heck, renting a boat sometimes really has some huge advantages. For example, let's say you want to check out some new lakes. Well, right now, if you've got your own vessel, you've got to tow to those new locations. If all you're doing is renting a boat 5 times a year, I could go to Miami from Minnesota. That's right, just fly out of Minnesota, book a rental boat in Miami, boat for 2 or 3 days down there, and then fly back to Minnesota and call it a day without any headaches. And I mean, rentals can be fun. I mean, you can get out there and just beat up a rental. Now, another huge advantage of renting over owning is you'll have access to a larger arsenal of watercraft. That's right, maybe you don't want a boat that weekend. You just want to go out on the jet ski. Well, heck, rent a jet ski then. As to where compared to if you own, you're stuck with just what you bought. And let's be honest, even though there's tons of great boats out there, I don't believe there's one perfect boat. No matter what boat you have, at some point in time, you're gonna look back and say, man, I wish I had a boat that could get me into the shallows versus this big center console. Or I wish I had a wake boat so we could go out and enjoy some water sports. But when you're renting, you don't have to worry about that because you're gonna rent whatever you want for that weekend. Now, there are some disadvantages to renting. The first one, you're stuck with whatever equipment they have on that boat. As compared to when you own your own vessel, you'll be able to outfit it however you wish for it to be outfitted. Now, another huge disadvantage to renting over owning is if you're the kind of person who likes to go out and, let's say, glamp on your boat and go overnight and spend the night somewhere with your vessel. Unfortunately, most rental companies aren't going to allow you to keep a boat overnight, so you are restricted to the rental company's hours on when you can have the vessel and when it must be returned by. And everybody knows if you're going out boating, that's the one question you don't ask. When are we coming back in? That's the first way you get disowned and kicked off the boat. Now, the next huge disadvantage to renting over owning is if you want to go boating on a busy weekend on your lake, you're probably going to have to book that rental boat pretty far in advance, which means you're not going to have a clue as to what kind of weather situation you're going to deal with on your rental day. As to where if you own the boat and the weather stinks, you can stay in and just go back out another day. But if you rented it and already paid for it, you're probably going to try and go out, and that won't always work out for you, especially if the weather's just absolutely miserable. So only you can decide what's the best way for you. If you're going out more than a few days, definitely buy your boat, but if you're only staying out a few days a year, it's definitely something to look at. Thanks for watching, crew. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Boneheaded Boaters of the Week. If you ever see anything crazy happening on your waterways, be sure to hit us up on Facebook or Instagram and let us know, and you might see your stories over here. Just like JLS021, Midnight 67, Sam Rodney Klein, and Adam Coolidge did this week. And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button here.